We'll go ahead and get the evening started. So first of all, just want to thank everybody for coming out today on a Tuesday evening. Really, what the CONVERGE networking social is all about is the fact that over the past 2 years, we really haven't done a whole lot of networking, have we? Everything has been closed down. We're working from home. And so this way, we're just having a venue for us to be able to go in, meet some new people, have a couple of great presentations, and have an overall just a fun evening. Now, as we get started, I just want to open up with a quick land acknowledgement. So I'm based here in Toronto, so I'm going to be doing it based out of Toronto. So we acknowledge the land that we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of Credit. Now, as we get started, I just have a quick few housekeeping things to cover with everybody here. Sandra, if you just move on to the next slide. Perfect. So we are meeting on Zoom today, so all of the participants' controls are going to be on the lower left-hand corner of the Zoom screen. We ask you to please remain on mute unless we ask you to speak, and there will be an opportunity to do that with some of our key speakers here. And of course, we will be leveraging the break room feature, and that's where we're going to be doing our networking today. So after each of the presentations, we'll have a breakout session and then come back and have a quick discussion about that. If you have any questions throughout any of the presentations this evening, just pop it in the chat. We'll make sure that we get it covered and we'll bring it up to the speakers. And then we ask you to turn on your video if possible. This is supposed to be a networking event. We can't meet in person, but we can get the closest and the next best thing. In addition to that, one last thing is that part of our session today is going to be recorded. And yeah, other than that, we just encourage you to interact with everybody. If you have, you can use the reactions, and we're looking forward to a fun night. Now, what is the event going to be? It's going to consist of 3 presentations followed on by breakout sessions before we close for the evening. 2 of those sessions are actually going to be presented by our certified management consultants, which is the organization that we're representing here today. And they're going to be following the Pecha Kucha format. Now, if you're not familiar with that format, it is a challenging and yet fun way to do a presentation. And you do it by telling a story over the course of 20 slides, and each slide is going to be 20 seconds each. So we have 2 of our CMCs presenting you, and you get to know them a little bit today before we break out into the first rooms. And then lastly, we have a focused presentation. And after that, again, we'll do another quick networking session before we come together and discuss. And without further ado, we can go ahead and get started by introducing our first speaker. So our first speaker is one of our CMCs today. He also holds a PMP and his MBA, and that's Nima Evans. Nima is a technology leader and a management consultant specializing in digital transformation, and is a CMC, a certified management consulting, helping organizations build new digital business capabilities. Over the past 20 years, he's worked with medium to large enterprises in product design, technology solutioning, delivery and integration, process digitalization, digital capability building, and business transformation across a variety of different sectors. Without further ado, I'll pass it over to you, Nima.
Hello, thank you. Thank you, Jeremy. So yeah, I guess most of the introduction has been already done, but just a quick, quick intro. I'm Nima Evans. I've been in this business for 20+ years, mainly in technology, digital transformation. I have my own practice, small practice, but working on it. So what I wanted to do is that today I wanted to talk about 3 general topics: why they choose consulting, what my consulting experience and path has been, and tell you a little bit about my CMC experience. So starting with the motivation that I had for consulting, a part of it is because of my own choice, that I picked consulting because it was very fulfilling, and part of it's a series of events that has happened throughout my life. Now the choice part is mainly has to do something about finding recipes for success. Basically, to me, consulting is very similar to making a food using a recipe. You get the ingredients, you apply a process, and you have an anticipated outcome that you get if you do the things right. And the most interesting part is it's not about when and how, what everything surrounding that situation is. It's about applying that process to getting those results. The first time I came up with this idea of finding recipes for success was back in the height of the Cold War, back in the 80s. Back then, like any other teenager of the time, I was doing a lot of reading, things about business, technology, advancements in the in science, a lot of news, and doing some development on my VEC-20 computer. I think the slides are stuck, by the way. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so yeah, back then, all these interesting stuff, and as someone who's trying to learn how to, look at his choice of profession in the future, I was always wondering, what is it that makes this competitions work for some people? What is it that some people fail, some people succeed, and what is basically a process for people that can make them successful or otherwise if they're not following it. That's the, initially I thought, okay, this is very easy. I'll pick some quotes that will guide me through my choices. So at the beginning of my university years, I picked a bunch of quotes that I was using all the time before I do something. You can see one of them that got me through school, the one on the right, the other one on the left was something that helped me through my career over the years. But what I figured is that it's not just that. It's not the intentions or motivations. It's really recipes. It's whatever you want to call it. You want to call it techniques, methodologies, frameworks. It's always something that you need to learn new that fit with the new situation and try to basically apply those and get results. Now, until 2000s, early 2000s, I started my career as a tech lead at an ISP. This is a picture of me actually building a ticketing system, and I was working with a team. As the team grew, I started. We figured we have to switch from cowboy coding, the way we started, and turning into a structured agile scrum. And I did that for some time, a lot of learning. And then after I left that company, one day I got a call from my former boss asking me if I can do the same thing for another company. And that was basically my first consulting gig. I figured, this is interesting. I can keep doing that. I don't have to be involved with the goal itself, which is, a particular company and so on, but I can use the formula and get results for my clients. So that was it. Then I came to Canada. It's a new life. I had to start again. I started as a developer for a few years, and it was a straightforward choice, focusing on establishing myself, finding jobs, changing jobs a few times, until about 2008, when I had a contract as a development lead at a company, e-commerce firm. And I wasn't happy with the direction I was going. And one day I spent about 8 hours fixing JavaScript code. And then at the end I said, wow, that's amazing. It's really cool. But was it worth it? And this picture is from around the same time. So at that time I thought, this is not the path I want to go. I want to switch. I made changes in my plans, went back to school, switched a few jobs, studied for a few years, learned new skills and new words to use at work, and a few jobs later, and I landed at a business technologist role as a consultant. This is up until 2016 that I worked in a few different areas, mainly systems integration, analytics, process redesign, that kind of thing, things that you do as a consultant. Now, when I talk about my shift to towards CMC. So one day I noticed a recurring pattern. I felt like I'm in a fish tank. I keep doing things, but it's like it's a very busy fish tank, and it's red ocean, very, very red, basically. There's a lot of competition. My skills are kind of commoditized. and then basically isolated from the world outside of my line of business. It's all about technology and certain things. So at that time, I thought this, I have people asking me questions for placements that, can you do a SQL? I do understand SQL, right? It wasn't for me. So I thought this is a time to take the next step, one step above. I Googled, found CMC, joined CMC, went through the courses, and I felt like that was an evolutionary experience for me. It was really transformative. Not the letters, of course, but but the fact that I could experience the world outside of that fish tank, outside of my immediate group that I was working with, and working with a lot of amazing professionals and learn different things. That has led to where I am right now, and having my own consulting practice. So this is my quick suggestions to you, to whoever's interested in CMC. Don't swim in a fish tank. Try to find other opportunities, learn new skills, reinvent yourself, join CMC, join other groups, volunteer, try to make a difference, share your experience, and give a pressure cooker. It's a really tricky thing to do, and it's fun. Well, thanks everyone. That was mine. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for listening, and keep in touch.
Awesome. Thanks, Nima. It was really always really inspiring to hear everybody's journeys and things like that, especially coming in from like a technology background and moving into the consulting side of things. So just had a quick question for you. In terms of your experience, what did you find was the biggest barrier that you had to overcome, trying to move into the CMC designation to moving into the consulting world?
My barrier, working at a large organization, that commoditization was part of it. What I figured is that you reach a stage in your career as a technology consultant that the first page of your resume becomes your spec sheet. People look at it, look at things. If you have them, that's good. If not, you don't. I felt like going past that is a challenge, because as a consultant, you have a bunch of techniques and tools in your tool set. You apply them in different situations, and you get results that work using those tools. But that is not what your own industry, the industry you're in, believes in. Even my boss was asking a funny question. He asked me, they must have changed their requirements for PMP. They must have lowered the bar, right? I said, no, I really have that experience. So the issue is that you're so much dependent on what people see you're doing, and you're kind of pigeonholed in your own role, and it's really a big barrier to pass, overcome. That's my experience.
No, I mean, that's great to hear, because I'm sure that, there's definitely some people who may be facing those barriers as well, that, trying to overcome them. And my second question for you is just around sort of your involvement here with the CMC. I know that you're heavily involved, but wanted to ask sort of how you became so involved and what kind of benefits you've reaped as being part of this organization.
Sure. Yeah. So that was the time. It's actually interesting. It's I put that quote about 75, 80%. 80% success is showing up. The idea came to me when I thought, I'm really in a space that I'm not interacting with people from different fields in a meaningful way, other than going for drinks with coworkers. There was nothing beyond that. So I sent an email. To someone at CMC and say, hey, I'm interested in becoming a volunteer. Any suggestions? What can I do? And I'm open to anything. And that was the start. And I volunteered for a few things, and then I've been asked for other things. I kind of expanded that, and I figured it's both rewarding, and you're creating that opportunity by just taking on the challenge and trying to take steps.
Awesome. Well, once again, thanks again for doing our PechaKucha presentation. I know 20 slides and 20 seconds each slide is not the easiest challenge. But moving on, we're actually going to go into our breakout rooms and do a little bit of networking. As you can see here on the screen, we have 5 questions just to prompt some of the conversation about Nima's presentation earlier on. And then other than that, we'll all be sorted into our own breakout rooms. There's going to be 6 people per room. So you can go ahead and start get networking and start meeting some new people. Perfect. Welcome back, everybody. So I hope you all enjoyed, enjoyed your breakout sessions and had some great discussions about whether it be the PechaKucha format that we had with Nima or some of the questions that we put there. So just wanted to open it up to see if anybody would like to share a couple of thoughts about their breakout session. If so, just come off. Yep, there we go. We got somebody.
There we go. I just want to say we had full representation from across the country, ours, right? From Halifax to Ottawa to Oshawa to Saskatoon. So it was, and wide range of skills and perspectives. It was really good.
That's fantastic. It's one of the beautiful things about, the COVID and the work from home style. We have these virtual events and we can really access it from anywhere. It's one of the, I guess, one of the biggest benefits. How about you, Nima? How did you find the breakout session?
It was interesting. I got to know, I really liked this breakout session because I got to know a few new people and heard their stories. So we talked a little bit about our backgrounds. Well, not me, but other members. So it was really fun. I thought it's really good. I got the idea that sharing your story is always something that people would. It's a great conversation opener. So it was really, really great. Yeah, it was a very good session.
Yeah, absolutely. And I find you can always learn something from everybody else's life experience. So that's great feedback. Yeah, so as we move on, we have our second PechaKucha speaker. And one thing I forgot to mention before is, where did PechaKucha come from? It's actually the Japanese term that means conversation or chit chat. So it's supposed to be small, digestible bites. And that's sort of where the format came from. But moving on, we have our second CMC speaker, which is Philip Adebola Folawesele. I'm sorry, Philip, I'm going to really mess that up. But he's the principal partner of the Ideas and Seeds Consulting. He's got 10 years experience in enterprise business transformation. He's got a CMC designation, which is fantastic, with a background in construction, marketing, strategy, and technology, and recently started his own business. So over to you, Philip.
Thank you very much. I do believe I should, okay. So I'll just move on to the next slide. So my name is Philip Folawesele, a project manager, certified management consultant with over 10 years experience. I worked in several industries, as Jeremy mentioned, from construction, health, education, banking, finance, mainly focusing on business transformation across board. Currently, I work as an internal consultant for the banking and finance client. Go to the next slide. So, why consulting for me? There's a story behind it, which I will tell in the next couple of slides. But my main reason for choosing consultant was to have a good understanding of how to get to the root causes of issues and recommend solutions that are clear and concise to organizational needs. Well, the story begins with this. 1988, February 1st, precisely, my father established a school. The goal was to fill the educational gap he noticed within the primary sector in a particular geographical location, especially Lagos, Nigeria, back home where I come from. You can fast forward that. So fast forward 12 years after, in 2000, the school grew to a population of 1,000 students. What started as an idea had grown and expanded and has now become successful. In this year, we all know that there were a lot of great things that happened, bad things on a macro and a micro level in the world. And the world is really moving fast, during this year. I might be faster than the time, but hopefully you're able to keep up. So in 2005, the school was reaching a growth peak, and it seemed that there needed to be a full assessment of the old working business model to bring about a new and right change which could ensure the necessary business essentials were addressed for the journey ahead. But in 2010, in the year 2010, the business wasn't doing so well, the assessment wasn't thoroughly done, and the future roadmap wasn't communicated or designed. And the business was still running on its old fumes, and so from success from the past. My father died, and my siblings and I were left with the huge responsibility of making the choice of transforming what we now know as the business, or allowing it to fade away, as new competition was springing up from everywhere, and it was springing up really fast. Next slide, please. So throughout the continuous run of the year, 2011, 2012, at this stage, we decided to walk through with other consultants, and that was our strategy, to work with them, to assist, we needed them to help us out, to stop the bleeding and get back to health. And the assistant that we got was not worth mentioning. We eventually lost a huge market share and had the opportunity to rebrand and start afresh. And this got me thinking about, the curiosity. I needed to get more knowledge. I need to have an in-depth expertise to better help businesses succeed, regardless of the level of project, from small to large, regardless of the degree. So I decided to go in and, to understand, who I was a little bit more and add to the knowledge and the expertise that I could get. I started taking courses, reading books, and, fulfilling and unlocking curiosity, my curiosity one step at a time. And in the process, just assisting other businesses. But as I was doing that, I noticed that, there was one missing key, that could better help, give me a better way of exposure to learnings and experience. And I knew at the back of my mind that I needed to get more knowledge, and more right training and expertise, to find the right place which could get, could be governed by the right strong code of conduct with professional ethics. And I did my research, and I went ahead with it, and I got certified in 2019. So during that process, of getting my certification, I got better knowledge, drawing resources from different individuals, and I got a strong network of, different individuals, and I was able to impact and provide solutions to my clients. So fast forward to COVID, I noticed that there was an opportunity, and as they always say, when there's always a crisis, there's an opportunity there, and I was able to create something. And what I was able to create was a consulting company named Ideas in Seed Consulting, and it was focused on business transformation, which is kind of wide, but keeping my focus on digital, technology, and human-centered design. And our goal is just to help organizations navigate future pathways for successful business transformation. So why digital transformation? According to Forbes, companies who have a higher digital platform, have a higher market value. They also have a higher margin, and only half of the employees, because they've improved on their processes and they use better platforms. And this companies also who have attained the highest volume of the value of digital tech transformation, are companies who are moving away from what they create alone to what they orchestrate. And mixing that with technology, we also know that you cannot have one without the other. And understanding what technology real estate of the companies are, and merging that with the trends, the company IDS better proposes an holistic diagnostic for them to their issues and propose the right recommendations. So for the human-centered design, innovation is better when it's centered around humans as the client and consumer. Most products do not succeed when they were designed from the inside out for the market, but there is a gap of leaving humans out of the equation during design and implementation. So helping organizations along this journey is critical to what I actually do. So how does it all come together? I know there are 3 services that will provide, have interdependencies, and we know that to have a successful, complete digital transformation, we need to merge in technology and human-centered. So with this understanding, we're able to measure what it feels and what it looks like. So what does the future hold for the company that I just set up? Well, continuous learning of emerging technology trends, ability to experiment, and coming up with great ideas that, you know, will fit the client. And, you know, just understanding that at the end of the day, how a CMC impacted my life through this, giving me a pool of individuals to reach out to. There's a pool of knowledge, the resources, the code of conduct, and the ethics that it provides has guided me and has impacted my life and career in making things a little bit, making things actually better and providing more solutions for my clients, and also giving me that ray of exposure to better improve and gain more expertise. So that's it for me, and thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Philip. That was fantastic to once again learn about your experience, your CMC designation, and of course, you starting your new company over the past couple of years. Now, as everybody can understand, it's been a huge change of I guess how we do work on a day-to-day basis, given the fact that we're all work from home now. So how did you find going about and starting your new company? What was the biggest challenge that you faced being in this remote working world? And of course, I mean, I guess the other side of that is, what was the biggest benefit of the fact that you could work from home and do it during COVID?
Well, I will start with the challenges. It was mostly trying to find clients. So trying to find clients, it's, networking with people, that was kind of, it's all virtual. So, having an idea and just pitching to people and doing, cold calling, or more like referrals and trying to connect. That was the most challenging part of it. The benefit is, for me, there's room to do a lot of research and more research, and I'm not spread thin, within the confinement of my home in front of a computer. And, I have the ability to read and just do that all through the night. And I'm not tired by, going through different transits, coming back and juggling. So that's a benefit, and it continues to be a benefit to me.
That's fantastic. So I have one more question for you, just given the fact that the nature of your work now is around digital transformation, human design thinking and all that fun stuff. Where do you see, I guess, the consulting industry going in the next 5, 10, even 20 years? Do you see emerging tech, having a massive impact in the way that we do work? And just wanted to get your insights on this.
So that's a good question. So reading a couple of weeks ago, I noticed that in 2019, the digital transformation question was on the top of CEOs' minds, and they spent almost close to 1.3 billion around that, if not more, and almost like 1.3 trillion, and almost like 900 billion of that amount of money actually went into waste. This is according to Forbes. And, there is an opportunity, because from when the organization actually starts to wanting to go into those new territories, most of them never actually follow through at the end of the day. And it could just be, there's different factors that actually make that happen, that, cause the amount of money and the strategy and the time spent to actually, fall down during. So I see that, the consulting aspect, the growth there of actually helping companies to shape up and provide the right solutions that could help bridge the gap and, minimize that waste. So instead of the waste going away, right, and, it going into places where the strategies that are not being actualized, it actually goes into the pocket of the consultants. and there's transformation that happens within the organization, and the customers go home smiling, and the consultants go home smiling. So I see a win-win on both sides.
That's fantastic. Well, once again, thanks for taking the time and, taking on the Pechakucha challenge, the 20 slides in 20 seconds each. As we move on, and we're actually ready for our next breakout session. So another networking session. We have a couple of questions for you here, things like emerging trends, some of the impacts, cost, waste, what the CMC value is, and really what's your superpower. So just a couple of things to facilitate the conversation. And in a moment, we'll be all put into our own breakout rooms. All right, so welcome back, everybody. I hope you had some, interesting and fruitful conversations in your breakout rooms. I know we had a really fantastic conversation around what is your superpower. And I think one of the biggest things that we took away is that your ability to digest information quickly and ask the right questions. But just wanted to put it out there to the audience. Is there anybody who would like to share, a little bit of insight from their breakout rooms?
We spent a lot of time talking about sales in ours. So it was just interesting that, really sales is hard, but should it be? So that was just getting people's perspectives on, selling and, what it takes for that. It was a great little precursor, I think, to what we're going to kick off with for the featured speaker.
I was going to say, that sounds like not only a great insight, but really, really apparent with our next presenter. So thanks for bringing that up, and it's a great segue to introduce Ian Chamandy. So he's going to be doing a presentation on how purpose accelerates sales, which is right on topic with what you said, Sue-Ann. So Ian Chamandy is the owner partner of the Blueprint Business Architecture. He's got a bachelor's in social psychology from the University of Waterloo, which is very, very interesting. He co-authored his own book, Why Should I Choose You? And he's the founder of the Adopt an Athlete Foundation. So Ian, thanks so much for putting the time together for this. I'll pass it over to you.
Great, thank you. All righty. So thank you very much for that introduction, and also for the opportunity. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to speak in front of you. And so today I'm here to talk to you about purpose and the value, the cash value of purpose. And the reason I'm doing that is because as management consultants, you know more than most people that there's sort of two buckets of business concepts. There's the hardworking, things that that you learn in an MBA program, and then there's all the soft stuff, the nice to have, the not the need to haves. And what I'm going to suggest to you is that COVID transformed two nice to haves into need to haves. And one is purpose and the other is culture. And if a company doesn't work on both of those things by design rather than by happenstance in the future, I think that they're going to be operating at a disadvantage. Before I get into the presentation, I'd like you to listen to this whole thing through the filter of what's in it for you. And what I'm going to tell you that is in it for you is the ability to generate sales faster and easier. And this is the conversation we had in the breakout, and who doesn't want that? I'm going to come back to this later in the presentation. But first of all, there we go. I want to define terms. What is purpose? So purpose is what makes you uniquely remarkable. Some people call it the secret sauce. Some people, call it your magic, whatever term you want to use. It is what makes you uniquely remarkable at your essence. It is the thing that defines you as fundamentally different than anybody else. What it isn't, in my view, is mission, vision, or values. I hope you're all relieved that I'm not going to go there. You'll never see these words in the rest of my presentation because I don't believe in them. I think they're anachronistic in the business community now. Now, what's the purpose of purpose? Like, it's great to have an expression that defines what makes you uniquely remarkable, but to what end? And the to what end is to guide everything that you do and everything that you say. A well-crafted purpose is like the DNA that permeates every cell of the company, from all the high profile functions into every nook and cranny. Now, there is, oh, sorry, before I go there, what I want to say is my company is called Blueprint. We do blueprints for our clients, and our process exactly matches what you're looking at here. We define your purpose in 7 words or less, and then we figure out how it guides everything you do and everything that you say. Now, there is a secret ingredient to purpose, and rather than telling you what it is, I want to demonstrate it for you. So we had a company come to us, and it did retail shelving. It was owned by a guy named John. And so we're having breakfast with John, and John said, by retail shelving, right? Home Depot builds a box, they go in, they put up all the rack shelving, and when they're done, the store opens. So at breakfast, John said to us, you know, I'm so frustrated because I know there's a magic to my company, but every time I open my mouth to talk about it, I sound so banal, so generic. It sounds so much like anything that any of my competitors say on a daily basis. And I said to him, John, it's because you don't know what business you're really in. And to his credit, he said, you're right, I don't know what business I'm really in. Now, John knew that he operated in the category of retail shelving, but who was he? What made him uniquely remarkable? What area of that sandbox did he carve out as his and his alone? He had done it, he just didn't know how to articulate it. So he decided to do a blueprint, and you know, we're talking. And where the conversation got interesting was when they started talking about how they had been in business for 3 generations, not 3 decades, but actually 3 generations of the family had been in this business. And because of that longevity, they had developed techniques and processes and systems and procedures that allowed them to get finished significantly faster. So you can imagine if they get a Home Depot done a week or 2 faster than anyone else, that's a week or 2 of retail sales that they wouldn't otherwise have. And that's north of $1 million a week. So, you know, that's real money in my world. So as we're having this conversation about getting finished faster, one of his VPs says as a joke, he says, you know, in our signs where it says opening soon, I want ours to say opening sooner. And I just went, oh my God, that's brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant, because that encapsulated the end purpose of everything that they did. It was all about opening sooner. Now, imagine if you are the VP of construction at Home Depot, and John comes into your office and he leads with opening sooner. Well, they know, right? So the VP of construction at Home Depot, there's basically 2 things that person cares about at the end of the day: staying on time and staying on budget. Staying on time, they're accountable to the CEO and the CFO. Staying on budget, they're accountable to the CEO, the CFO, the store manager, the VP of operations, all the project management teams, internal and external, that have project management timelines and software going into that opening day. And if you've got to delay that, that goes click, 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 click back through everybody's project management software. And now you've got hundreds or even thousands of people pissed off at you rather than just 2. So it's arguable that staying on time causes the VP of construction more gray hair than even staying on budget. And when the supplier that is most important to getting you open on time says to you, I'm not only going to beat your deadline, but I'm going to beat it by so much that you can actually open the store sooner and start generating revenue faster, you can just feel the exhale of relief from the VP of construction, because they're sitting there going, oh God, you understand me. You understand my position. You understand my business, and you understand my conundrum. Tell me more. So this feeling, like, it hits at a deep emotional level to the VP of construction. Now you've hooked that person. Now let's start talking about what we can do for you. So the secret sauce in a well-crafted purpose is emotional resonance. And if you don't believe me, I'm sure most of you know Simon Sinek and his book, Start With Why. If you don't, run, don't walk, to watch his TED Talk. It's an 18-minute TED Talk and it's fabulous. Don't buy the book. It's all in the TED Talk. But here's Simon Sinek of Start With Why talking about the importance of emotional relevance in decision-making. And I'm talking about sales, but sales is just one, deciding to buy from you is just one kind of decision. So here's Sinek talking about decision-making.
Here's the best part. None of what I'm telling you is my opinion. It's all grounded in the tenets of biology, not psychology, biology. The neocortex is responsible for all of our rational and analytical thought. Sometimes you can give somebody all the facts and your figures and they say, I know what all the facts and details say, but it just doesn't feel right. Our limbic brains are responsible for all of our feelings, like trust and loyalty. It's also responsible for all human behavior, all decision-making. It's all happening here in your limbic brain, the part of the brain that controls decision-making.
Okay, so I just want to do two things here. I want to introduce a structure, a side-by-side structure that you're going to see throughout the rest of the presentation. But I also want to build on what Sinek said. He said where decisions are made is in the limbic system. And the limbic system responds to emotional resonance. It doesn't respond to facts and figures. It doesn't respond to features and benefits. All that stuff speaks into the neocortex. But what Sinek told you is by that time, the decision's already made. The neocortex comes late to the brain and says, oh, decision's made. Okay, let's figure out what happened here so I can articulate it, so I can tell it to somebody else. But if you're talking features and benefits when you're doing sales, you're talking Chinese to somebody who only understands German. So what Sinek says is what drives sales or decision-making is emotional resonance. What we also saw farther up is that the basis for a well-crafted purpose is emotional relevance. Ergo, purpose drives sales. So let's see what that looks like with this retail shelving company, right? So the opening sooner, remember, that's their purpose. That's their, they do all their work, but to what end? Opening sooner. So they put that story on all their LinkedIn profiles, and John gets a message one day from a mid-level construction manager at Best Buy. And the message says, hey, interested in that opening sooner thing that you talk about? Can you come out here and tell us more about it? So John hops on a plane with the expectation that he's going to meet in the office of a mid-level manager. And as we all know, that's step one in working your way up and finally getting to the decision makers who hopefully will hire you. So that was John's expectation. I'm going to meet in an office with this woman. And what he ended up doing was presenting in front of the entire executive team at Best Buy. And he told the opening sooner story. There was some Q&A, and then somebody said, thank you very much, John, we'll call you. And we all know what that means, right? It's like you'll never hear from them again. Or they'll call you 6 to 12 months down the road when their plans actually start to take shape. Well, what happened was John was in Vancouver Airport that same night, ready to take the red eye back to Toronto, and he got a call on his phone. It was Best Buy. They said, we've got an $800,000 trial project for you. And if you do well with this, we'll give you more. And they actually did well with that project. And they've been getting projects from Best Buy ever since. But I just want to make the point here that 2 words got the attention of a mid-level manager. 2 words got him into the executive suite of Best Buy, as represented by this, stock photo of a generic executive team. And 2 words got him the $800,000 project that led to a lot more projects for his company. So you could say, yeah, but what about features and benefits? 98% of the companies in the world sell with features and benefits. What gives? And so the quick answer is that features and benefits is based on facts and figures, and that's all neocortex stuff. Remember, neocortex comes after the decision is made. So I want to bring back that side-by-side idea for you, and I want to talk about the difference between what a company is selling and what you're actually buying, okay? So in our breakout session, somebody mentioned Maple Leaf Foods, with a client of mine, and basically it's a pork company, right? So imagine this is Maple Leaf Foods on the left side. We're selling salt-cured pork made from various cuts, typically from the belly or less fatty parts of the back of a pig, cut into thin strips for easy cooking, often flavored with maple syrup and other tasty things, the aroma of which drifts all through the house. So, but what are you buying? Now, this may seem like a weird question because you say, well, I'm buying what's on that, you know, on that list there. And it's like, no, that's not what you're buying. This is what you're buying.
It's some more bacon.
So bacon has become an iconic food. And the thing is, this baby is the bacon baby, who's famous all over the world now, but is experiencing a full body visceral and emotional reaction to what are, you know, pork strips. And what I'm going to say to you is that any company within its, you know, relevant audiences, no matter how, you know, unsexy they seem to be, can evoke the same visceral emotional response from your clients if you understand what they're buying, not what you're selling. So this is a really, really important point that I want to introduce at this point in the presentation, is that what customers are buying from you is fundamentally different than what you're selling. 98% of the companies in the world know what they're selling. Almost none of them know what the customer is buying. And that puts them at a distinct disadvantage. So look at Interiors as the retail shelving company, right? So what are they selling? Better hiring. And this is what they've talked about for decades, right? Better hiring, better training, better project management, faster screws, you know, whatever. There's a whole laundry list. But what the customer is buying, what that VP of construction is buying, is opening sooner. When John gets in front of buyers like that, and he says, well, we're all about opening sooner, that whole story is triggered from those two words. The VP of construction doesn't need to be told, opening sooner means you generate revenue faster. They get that right away. They get that they become a hero. And now they're leaning forward and saying, tell me more. So it's all about emotional resonance, not features and benefits. And I want to show you now Nike from the 60s, when it was founded, up until 1986, was a classic features and benefits company. You'd see an ad for a sneaker and there'd be arrows going to different places saying, this is why our sneakers are better than everybody else's sneakers. In 1986, they made the transformation to an emotional resonance company. And this is the commercial that launched them into that new era.
I run 17 miles every morning. People ask me how I keep my teeth from chattering in the wintertime. I leave in my locker.
So that's how Nike became the Just Do It company, which is all about emotional resonance. And here's the beauty, like there's a brilliance to it beyond its initial brilliance. So first of all, if you're the kind of person who gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning and then, you know, does a workout and then you're back by 7 and you're getting the kids ready for school, you drive them to school, then you're into work by 8 and you work till 6, come home, spend a little bit of family time. And then by 9, you're hitting the books again. You work to 11, then you crash and boom, the alarm goes off at 5 a.m. the next morning. You hear this and you say, Darn right, that's me. I'm a just do it kind of person. Using Nike products makes me a just do it kind of person. Here's the additional brilliance to it. You can be a guy laying on a couch on Sunday afternoon watching your football games with your your t-shirt hiked up over your beer belly, a beer in one hand and Cheetos on the coffee table in front of you, and you can sit there and you can say, yeah, that's me. I'm a just do it kind of person. And you go out and buy Nike products to validate that you're a just do it kind of person. Totally brilliant. And then, as you probably know, they stopped doing it. And it was so powerful as a purpose statement, it fought itself back, and Nike's using it again. So what's Nike selling? To this day, they're still selling what they claim to be better shoes, smarter clothing, more innovative technology. But what the customer is buying is feeling like a just do it kind of person. So I'm coming in for a landing now, and I just want to summarize everything we've talked about. First of all, what customers are buying is fundamentally different than what you're selling. And if a company knows what it's selling, and all companies do, and they don't know what the customer is buying, they are squarely behind the 8 ball in terms of generating sales. So how do you articulate what the customer is buying? That's what your purpose statement is. It's what the customer is buying. And it's got emotional resonance built into it. And if you've got emotional resonance built into your purpose, remember before I said the purpose of a purpose is to guide everything that you do and say. And what that means is that what the customer is buying and emotional resonance are being pumped through the veins and arteries of your company every single minute of every single day. If you have a purpose that that articulates what the customer is buying. Here's how we bring it all together. Step 1, identify what the customer is buying, not what you're selling. You have to start with what you're selling, but you have to completely turn it around. You have to sit on the other side of the table, get into the customer's head and say, what are they buying? Then you have to express it in 7 words or less. And the reason for that, I can't remember if I said it at the top or not. It's the old Oscar Wilde thing, right? I wrote a long letter because I didn't have the time to write a short letter. When you get it down to nice and clean and snappy, that's how it gets its emotional resonance. So take the time. And if you don't think it can be done, it's usually 2 or 3 or 4. I've done over 400 blueprints. We've never had a purpose statement over 7 words. Thirdly, use the purpose statement to guide everything that you do and say. Get it pumping through the veins of your company. And then what will happen is that it will, what's the word I want? It will permeate your sales story. The basis of your sales story becomes your purpose, which is what the customer is buying, which is laden with emotional resonance. And that's what your sales story is going to be. It's going to be laden with emotional resonance. You'll have them hooked. They'll be leaning forward. And now you say, let's talk about what we can do for you. So I want to go there. What can you do for them? Once a blueprint is completed, there's 2 big projects coming out of it. One is the actual implementation of a blueprint, and that's a very specialized process. But the other is a plethora of management consulting opportunities. Because if you're sitting in your client's blueprint sessions, the colloquial way I describe the process is we break the company up into pieces, and it's spread out on the table like a jigsaw puzzle. At some point in that conversation, the purpose statement pops up. We bulletproof it to make it right, and then we reassemble the company around the purpose. If you're sitting there in the room when it's in pieces on the table, you're going, oh, we can help them there, and we can help them there, and we can help them there. And you come out of it with a laundry list, a long laundry list of things that you can do with the company. So contrast that with the traditional process of a service company, any service company making sales, which is they give you a little project like they gave John. and you do well in that. Maybe they give you a couple more, a bigger one. And then, you know, next thing you know, 2 or 3 years down the road, you've done all this hard work and you're a trusted advisor sitting at the table with them all the time, and they're constantly feeding you business 2 or 3 years down the road. What I'm saying is that if you do a blueprint up front with your client, you reveal all the warts in the very beginning, and you start out your relationship with them with a long laundry list, the heading of which is, here are all the different ways I can help you. You have that critical sales intelligence immediately, rather than developing it over time as your relationship grows. So I want to thank you all for, for coming to this presentation. And I want to thank everybody at CMC for inviting me to do this. Shameless plug for my book. I think it's sold out in hard copy, but you can still get it in soft. And when we go to the breakout sessions, it's really only one question to consider when we have the conversation, which is, if everything you do is a means to an end, what is the end purpose of your company? Now, the way most companies would describe that is, well, what we do is our end purpose. And it's like, no, no. The impact on the client, what the client is buying, is your end purpose. So you have to look at everything you do and say, okay, what's the end purpose of that? So thank you very much. I'll hand the presentation back, and if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, Ian, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. I think that was actually really, really fascinating to listen into. And I know that we have 10 minutes before our scheduled breakout session. So I just wanted to open the floor up to anybody in our audience who may have a question. You know, you can simply come off mute and ask Ian yourself. Happy to put it in the chat and I can recite it for you. And to kick it off, you know, I guess I'll start with my own question for you, Ian. Do you find that a lot of companies currently have already started this emotional resonance journey, defining their purpose and trying to appeal to that emotional side of their customers? Or do you think that we're still playing catch up, where it's completely a foreign concept for a lot of companies?
There was no motivation in the past to pay any attention to this. You know, if 98% of the companies in the world are selling in a way that is not optimal, you don't really have to worry, because, you know, if you're not optimal, well, none of your competitors are optimal either. So you have basically a fair playing field. But I think COVID changed everything. Everybody is leaving their companies and nobody's coming back. And, you know, but just before Christmas, the CEO of RBC said, we're losing the battle for talent. You know, COVID is causing us to lose the battle for talent. You're hearing this all over the place. And why is talent leaving? Well, I can tell you in my coaching practice, people are coming to me and saying, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something with meaning. I want it to match my purpose. And it's like, okay, well, so first of all, as an individual, what's your purpose? And secondly, if this is happening out there in the general population, as broadly as I'm observing it happen, then the CEO of RBC at some point is going to have to say, the brain drain is getting critical. What are we going to do about this? If the thing that matters to people is meaning and purpose, how am I going to communicate what my purpose is to them and have my culture reflect that, so that I start attracting people again, so that I create myself as a magnet?
Yeah.
Sorry, just to wrap up. No, I don't think people are paying attention yet, but I think the market is starting to force them.
Yeah, you know, it's what you just said really actually even resonated with me. You know, around this great resignation pandemic that we're in, you know, everybody's leaving. I was also, I guess, responsive, you know, what am I doing now? Let's find something new, a new challenge and things like that. You know, so it's really interesting to see how this not only applies to sales, but applies to a lot of different other areas within an organization as well. So thanks for that.
I'm just going to say that recruitment is sales as well. Retention is sales. It's all sales. All sales. So if you don't have a compelling story for whatever it is you're trying to do, whatever it is you're trying to get people to cooperate with you on or agree with you on, then, you know,
Absolutely.
This is going to be hit and miss.
Absolutely. I see we have a couple of questions coming in here. So Brenda says, Ian, for those management consultants on here who may have a client that needs this, how might you suggest this be introduced without making them sound like they have done something wrong, or their lengthy mission, vision, statements, they're not on where they need to be? So how would you approach that?
So what I would say is that mission, vision, and values and any other strategic thinking that they've been done is all fodder for the mill, for the, you know, the blueprint mill, because you're doing the thinking, and then in the blueprint, all we do is we just turn it 180 degrees. So rather than talking about it from the perspective of the company, talking about what you're selling, we turn it around 180 degrees and reframe all of that. So it is from the perspective of what the customer is buying. Did that answer the question? Oh, wait a second. Sorry. She asked, yeah, I don't know. Did that answer the question?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think so personally, but Brenda, if you have anything else, a follow-on question, please, you know, feel free to come off mute or throw it into the chat. But in the meanwhile, we also have a question from Mike Ennis. Any suggestions or best practices for Canada's public sector leaders, prime minister, premiers, things like that, in terms of trying to appeal to one's emotional resonance and their sense of purpose?
Oh, I've given up on that battle. Nobody talks about vision more than politicians. I was at a fundraising event about 5 years ago at a house. There's probably about, I don't know, 30 people there. And George Smitherman was helping this candidate raise money. And both Smitherman and the candidate were talking about our vision, our vision, our vision. And then they threw it open for questions. And my first question was, what is your vision? Well, I'm not sure that we have a vision, you know, articulated in the sense that you would consider vision. I said, well, no, just, you know, however you would say it. And it was like a lot of hemming and hawing. So I've tried. I want political parties and politicians to be able to express themselves in a way that will inspire people to vote for them, inspire people to, you know, that 40% who don't vote to actually get out and vote. But it's a tough sell.
Yeah, no, it just goes to show about how this applies to not even, yeah, I mean, it is sales at the end of the day, right? No, it's fantastic. I guess, you know, one question that I have again, before we wrap it up and go to the breakout sessions is, how did you sort of come about this methodology? Was it just one night you had a dream and you came up with the 7-word purpose, or how did you stumble upon it?
No, you know, I stumbled upon it 2 ways. One was in university. Mm-hmm. And, you know, as you mentioned, I went to the University of Waterloo, and what's so interesting about Waterloo, at the time I went, it was known for, you know, engineering, math, and computer science, and then, you know, niche courses, but cool courses like kinesiology and optometry and that sort of thing. Nobody knew that the biggest department on campus was psych. And still, but anyway, I did this course. It was a philosophy course, and it was on a book. And the book was so thick and complicated that I knew I'd never read it. So I took the course to force me to read it. And what it made me realize is that I could understand anything at a logic level. I don't have the patience to go exceptionally deep, but I can understand it at a logical level as long as somebody explains it to me properly. And my whole business is about getting people to explain to me properly the logic of their business. And I'm sitting there going, now I'm still confused. How about this? And I send them down this path and this path and this path and this path to try and tease it out. So that was sort of an instrumental thing. And then one of my first real jobs was in an advertising agency, and there were 3 of us who were sort of like the, you know, the Young Turks or whatever. I was mid-20s, and they pulled us into the boardroom because they were pitching a beer brand. And we were in the target group, and they said, what do you think? And I looked at it, and I was petrified, because it was like, this doesn't relate to me at all. I don't understand it. These aren't my friends. But I couldn't say anything because I was paralyzed. These were my bosses. I couldn't. And the guy next to me says, I'll be honest with you, I don't understand it, and I don't relate to it. I can't relate to it. And in that moment, what I thought would be a statement of incredible weakness was actually a statement of incredible strength, because he admitted he didn't know, and everybody in the room didn't know. He was just expressing what everybody knew. So from that point on, I wasn't afraid to say, I don't understand. I don't understand. Tell me more. Tell me this way. Try telling me that way. Try telling me the other way, until the logic gets really tight, because I can understand anybody's business at the logic level, if you explain it to me properly.
Well, that's fantastic. And, of course, it's really fascinating to sort of learn where this came from. And it sounds like a very, strong and sturdy framework there. So thanks again, Ian, for being able to put that presentation, for spending the time with us this evening. And with that being said, we're going to move off. Yeah, thank you again. We're going to move off to our breakout session. One of you guys will be lucky enough to have you in there. You can talk a little bit longer. And other than that, we'll be there shortly. Right. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you guys had a really interesting conversation after Ian's presentation. I know what I did. I think the biggest thing is for us to really answer the questions that Beata put in chat there about what is our end purpose, our company's end purpose. You got to think about that. It's really true what he says. It's really hard to make it short and sweet and punchy. But wanted to open the floor to you, the audience, to see if you had any any insight into your own networking and your own breakout rooms. Just feel free to come off mute. As nobody's coming off mute, I'm gonna go ahead and maybe pass it over to Nima. Nima, are you still here?
Yes.
How was your breakout room?
It was good. It was a lot of talk about change management. So, we had SoCamp there, and he's a thought leader in that field. So we, from purpose, we got really interested in his purpose and his business purpose. So we kept talking about that. It was a good conversation. It's a lot about people and, the motivation and those things, and getting people involved in evolution of an organization, as opposed to trying to change the organization and make people, push them towards a set structure and say, here's what you're going to do. Instead of that, try to help them evolve and be aligned with that. So it was a really interesting conversation. Interesting purpose as well. Changing the way people look at change, which is very important.
Yeah, that's very deep. Changing the way we look at change. I like that. Just want to open the floor again. Was there anybody else who wanted to mention something? Any key thoughts before we end off the night? All right, as I see no one's speaking up there. So once again, just want to thank everybody for joining. I'm going to pass it over to Beata, who's on the organizing committee here as well, just to sort of close off the evening, give you a little heads up on what we have planned and in store from the CMC's perspective. Over to you, Beata.
Thanks, Jeremy, and thank you for hosting the event. So once again, I'd like to thank our presenters, Nima Evans and Philip Foloshaile, for telling us about your consulting journey, and Ian Chamandy for taking the time to share your thought-provoking blueprint. We are very grateful. And thank you to our audience for attending our CONVERGE event. And we hope that you come away to this evening with some fresh ideas and some new networking friends.